Putin accidentally admits something for the very first time, and Russians decided to try a brand new mystery offensive. And besides that, spontaneously and extremely suspiciously, a headquarters of Chechen soldiers in Chechnya was set on fire. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude.
And let's get straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. So,
today is something truly unexpected. So unexpected that I even forgot myself what I have to talk about, so I have to look in my notes. Long story short, yeah, okay, now I see. So, once again, holidays are over, but the Christmas and New Year spirit sometimes still does not leave some Z patriots and Russians. And right here, for example, we can see one of these Father Christmas, like we call him, or in commonly known Santa Klaus, who is standing next to an intercontinental ballistic missile called Sarmat. And his biggest wish for Russia is obviously for this metallic cylinder to reach America. What makes it extraordinarily, outstandingly ridiculous is that this picture is taken, as I can assume, next to the embassy of the US in Russia, judging by this American flag in the top right corner. And the thing that he is holding in his hands, the poster, it says, "Into the new year with the faith in all the Russian good things." And well, what else can we say to this gentleman, except that maybe he should rethink his life choices, he should rethink his wishes, and maybe think about something better than using an inflatable metallic cylinder and threatening the Western countries for no reason. Okay, so yeah, as always, now let's get serious and talk about Putin finally admitting something. Then I'm gonna talk quickly about update from the east and the south of Ukraine, and also Chechen headquarters being set on very big ball of fire. And finally we'll talk about this new mysterious offensive that Russians are developing. And so yes, you already probably heard about that right now. It's happening an economic forum in Davos. President Zelensky was invited there, Putin obviously not so much. Putin decided to do his own speech and make several statements just to show the people of Russia that he is equally important to the rest of the world, or at least to just Russia. And basically one of his main statements, the whole speech he was talking about, was based solely on one idea, that Russia is ready for peace talk. It is Ukrainians who do not accept our negotiations offers, because they're Western leaders, they're Western owners. They prohibit Ukraine to talk with Russia. He was also obviously mentioning that the Ukrainian counteroffensive failed completely. Like, I mean, it just was hilarious how bad it was, according to him. And I mean, he was referring on the information given to him by Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu. So the reliability of this information is already questionable enough. And then he still kinda did touch the peace talks with Russia and Ukraine, and he said that, okay, but Ukrainians, you remember, in the very beginning when you separated from the USSR, in your constitution was written that yes, Ukraine might be an individual, independent country, but it must remain neutral. And this is what is the goal, the main goal of the special military operation, according to Putin, is to keep Ukraine neutral, allegedly. And so, how does he want to achieve this? And so this is exactly where he finally admitted something, which, to be honest, everyone already knew pretty much since the very first day of the invasion, maybe even before this. He finally said that those territories which Russia conquered, not liberated, he exactly said, those territories which Russia conquered. I am literally translating his speech. Russia is not planning to give away those territories because they are ours, according to Putin. So as you can see, there was no liberation inside, there was no liberation at all. Putin himself deep inside knows that this is an invasion, that this is a conquering war, and finally the truth starts to come out. And well, like I did mention previously, right now also an economic forum is happening in Davos, where Zelensky was giving a relatively similar speech about the situation in Russia and Ukraine. And he was mainly talking about that the West is pushing Ukraine to start negotiations and to switch to defensive, but Ukraine simply cannot accept it. It is plain and simple. As soon as the hostilities they slow down, Putin will take advantage of this temporarily cease of fire, regain strength, bring resupplies and bring new forces, and then attack with the new power. And at the same time, this is also me just quoting Zelensky. He did mention that Russia potentially right now is trying to slow down the offensive as much as possible to wait until the next presidential elections in America, where Trump might win. And it looks like, allegedly, that Trump and Putin will be a little bit more friendly, or at least Trump will not be as supportive to Ukraine. This is once again, guys, me just reciting Zelensky. I'm not gonna give you my personal opinion on this one, so in this case I'm pretty curious to hear what you think. Whether you agree with this or not, please let me know down below in the comments. And in the meantime, let me give you a very brief update from the east and the south of Ukraine, and also gonna talk about the Chechen headquarters being spontaneously destroyed, as always. And today, let's do something completely the opposite. Today, I'm not gonna ask you to like this video. Guys, do not like this video, do not subscribe to my channel, because I'm very curious how many of you are watching who are true rebels and will do everything exactly the opposite. For this reason, also do not open my Instagram and do not follow me there, because I'm getting very close to 9,000. I do not need to reach this number. Forget about this. The link is down below, by the way. And so yes, first of all, quick stop in one of Russian city called Voronezh, where recently this last night allegedly Ukrainian drones were intercepted and the debris fell in the residential areas. Russian propaganda said that this was the direct attack of Ukrainians against those buildings. But what the Russian propaganda did ignore completely is that the headquarters of the Chechen soldiers who did fight in Ukraine, and this headquarters located in Chechnya itself, also spontaneously, without anyone even smoking in inappropriate places. There was not even electric malfunction or short circuit, nothing like this. It just, I mean, you know, like just a ball of fire appeared out of nowhere and destroyed it. What's so big deal about it? Not even worth to talk about it on the news. I honestly would not expect anything less than that. Now it's time to get back finally to Ukraine. And first is this front line along Kupiansk, where Russian positions were completely obliterated with the help of a Ukrainian tank and Swedish combat vehicle CV-90. And next, let's go a little bit down to Bakhmut. Right here is one of the very first videos where Ukrainians use their own land drone, which is controlled remotely. It can even open a fire and it is extremely agile and mobile. And as you can see from here, it is destroying also heavily armored Russian vehicles. So right now, as you can see, besides drones which are flying in the air, Ukrainians also start using the land drones, which pretty much puts the Ukrainian dominance in the air, in the land, and also in the sea, with the naval drones such as Sea Baby and Kazakh Mamai. The video of this small machine putting a true horror in the eyes of Russians is relatively interesting to watch. I do recommend it for every single one of you to see it. The full version, as always, will be available on my Patreon. The link is down below. Our next stop brings us to Donetsk region, to Krasnohorivka, and as you can see right here, a Russian T-90M tank has been destroyed by Ukrainians. And then the next picture is allegedly the very same tank, which shows pretty much the consequences of this attack. And guess what? As we go to Stepove, located right here also close to Krasnohorivka, right here is yet another video of another Russian T-90M tank also being destroyed. These tanks, they are pretty much getting eliminated by Ukrainians at least every single week, and these are supposedly the most modern combat machines of the Russian army. Does not look like it, right? And well, that is nothing extraordinary whenever you see videos like this, for example, where a Russian soldier is trying to intercept a Ukrainian drone using a grenade launcher, which is extremely inaccurate, and the drone does not even move. The guy missed completely. And just overall, in the last 24 hours, Russians attempted several attacks which were coming to the north and to the south of Avdiivka, and then at least 10 armored vehicles of various kinds were trying to approach Stepove, and so far Ukrainians were able to repel all of these attacks. But unfortunately, as with every single city which Russia quote-unquote liberates in Ukraine, this is the current condition of Avdiivka, the most recent video from this town, and as you can see, it is also already pretty much brought down to the rubble. And just overall, according to this report by the British intelligence, whenever Russians were able to, let's call it like this, capture Marinka, they were not able to use this advantage and capture the next settlement to the south called Mikhailivka, Novomikhailivka. There are no successful attempts so far. And as of right now, according to the same report, the main goal of Russians remain the same, in the east at least, which is to surround and capture Avdiivka. And here, they are not successful either. And now, just literally a couple of words of the update from the east, very quick one, guys. And so, first of all, also according to the very same report by the British intelligence, Ukrainians maintain their bridgehead presence in Krynki, and several attempts of Russians to take them out of there were also completely unsuccessful. And then right here is yet another video from Kherson region from Brylivka, located to the south of Kazachyi Lahiri, where Ukrainian long-range artillery was able to destroy a Russian multiple-launch rocket system called Grad. And guess what? Another multiple-launch rocket system, BM-27 Grad, was also destroyed by Ukrainians. And then in Radiansk, also Kherson region, believe it or not, another short-range missile system called Asa-Akem also been destroyed by Ukrainians. And one of the reasons why Ukrainians are so precise in finding and distinguishing the actual real military targets of Russians, it is because of their own reconnaissance drone called Shark. And one of the incredible features that it has, besides obviously pretty good image quality, is that it is able to target and lock in on its targets to find them and just follow them, and the stabilization is absolutely incredible, which provides a lot of useful information for the drone operators and those Ukrainians who will be later attacking those targets. And just as always, the full video of this drone operation, as well as all the other extra and uncensored footage that I've been using in today's episode, and everything else which is not in this episode because YouTube does not allow me to show this. All of this you will be able to find on my Patreon. The link is down below. There's 1 week of free access for you to try it, if you like it or not, and this is the best way to support the channel. And so now, ultimately, let's talk about these so-called mystery new tactics that Russians are developing and they might use in the near future. The very first thing that is worth mentioning is that, unfortunately, Russian in the military industry does not just stand in the same place. They also try to come up with the new military equipment and vehicles. Such as, for example, right here is the self-propelled artillery system called Coalition SV, which is reportedly able to use 12 to 16 shots per minute, and the range of this is 70 kilometers, which is pretty doubtful, but this is what they say. And later on, at least in the internet and among other military experts, some rumors started to appear that once again, since every war is cyclical, one country attacks another defense, then they switch sides, so unfortunately most likely next will be the offensive by Russians. They started to make assumptions that maybe the next offensive will be something new. Maybe they will use sea assaults or airborne troops to try and go way behind the current front lines and try to attack Ukrainians from the back. And most likely it will be happening very soon, maybe only in the next couple of weeks, because right now the winter was relatively mild. I mean, yes, it was cold, but not as cold to allow the ground to freeze completely, so they'll be able to use the heavy machinery such as tanks to go through the new roads. Besides that, Russians right now, they continue to send never-ending assaults against pretty much central locations such as Avdiivka, which is mainly targeting to exhaust Ukrainian forces and exhaust their defenses. And I mean, yes, this craziness comes at an incredible cost to the Russian army. I mean, imagine, You just distract your enemy, and by doing this you sacrifice thousands of lives every single week. But this is what the Russian military is ready to do. And later on, those rumors started to confirm, such as, for example, one of the most recent reports by the Institute for the Study of War talks pretty much exactly about the very same thing, that Russians might launch either amphibious or airborne assaults somewhere in the rear positions of Ukrainians. And even some Ukrainian representatives, such as for example Anna Malyar, started saying exactly the very same thing, that according to her own intelligence presented to her by the people fighting on the front lines, they do not see any serious attempts of Russians to advance. The only thing they do is to simply morally and physically exhaust Ukrainian defenders. And this is exactly what we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, whenever I was saying that Russians were sending small units of 10 to 15 people across literally open fields with no protection and nothing, just so that they'll be obliterated by Ukrainians. And then the next report by the General Staff of Ukraine comes to us, which says that literally it is pretty much impossible for any single soldier who still has his conscience to follow these orders. That is why they do mention that potentially there is a heavy substance abuse within the Russian army, in order for them to follow such crazy orders. Because as unbelievable as it might sound, this is what we see. It was not just 1, 2 or 3 time thing. It was a routine whenever Russians were trying to advance Ukrainians, knowingly that they will be sacrificed. And at the same time, besides exhausting Ukrainians, they might try to just numb the attentiveness of Ukrainians, because they will be used to these kind of assaults, so whenever Russians attempt something new, this might catch Ukrainians by surprise. So this is exactly what is happening right now. Please guys, as always, let me know in the comments if you agree with anything I just said or not, let me know what you think, and if you want to support the channel, simply do not subscribe. Today we agreed not to subscribe and not to like this video, don't do it. Thank you so much for your attention, thank you so much patrons for your support, and see you tomorrow. Subscribe to my channel.